G'day, Alyssa.
Hey!
How you doing?
I'm good, Josh. How are you?
I'm well.
This is Miko.
It's a crazy night out there in Hobart, but I made it here all in one piece.
Did you get blown away?
I did. The wind is insane, but it's nice here sitting in front of your fire. And this is Miko.
Yes.
G'day,
this is
Miko.
Miko.
Alyssa, I wanted to come and talk to you about you and your making comics.
Awesome.
You make comics.
What do you want to know?
What do I want to know? Well, tell me about your comic.
Well, I'm working on a 300-page or so middle grade graphic novel. It's also a memoir, and it comes out next year.
2021. But it's not. You're not working on one graphic novel, are you?
No, I'm going to be working on 3 total.
3 books. 3 books.
3 books.
Wow. Okay, and tell me what's this? What's the first book about?
The first book is the memoir one. It's based on my childhood diaries. So part of the writing I did when I was 12, which is a good head start. and it's about this coming of age story in New York City, with September 11th happening in the middle of the story, and how that kind of shifts the coming of age story for a child.
Wow. And have you got an idea about what the second and third book will be about? Or is it vague?
It's very vague.
It's very vague.
Yeah.
Okay. So 300-page comic.
Yes.
Up until this point, you've done kids' books?
Yes.
And illustrations by Miko.
By Miko.
And how is making a 300-page comic different to making a kids' book?
Well, I guess in doing the assembly line changes.
Right.
And
well, maybe we could talk about what the assembly line looks for. What that looks like for comics. What is your assembly line? What's your process?
I guess my assembly line is the words, and that's similar to with picture books. I receive the words and then need to figure out what to do with them. With the graphic novel, I had to come up with the words and think about what would be told in the pictures as well. So I wrote the full manuscript with illustration notes for what I was trying to imply in the story as well, and that way the editor can see inside my head for that vision as well. So then after the writing, then the assembly line goes to thumbnailing to figure out how many pages it's going to be. That was what the editor wanted to know next. How many pages is this going to be? And that's like a huge concept.
Did you say, I'm going to have 300 pages from the very beginning?
Well, she said it couldn't be more than 288, so that was like my limit.
Right.
And that's what I was working on when I was thumbnailing, knowing like I was trying to cut things or spread things out so that I wouldn't get past that point, and I didn't. So 288 pages is exactly what it is now, with author notes and everything.
And so you move from thumbnailing straight to inking, or what do you do?
Well, once it's thumbnailed, it went to the editor again, and she was able to then read it through again. She's already very familiar with the story, so then she could see it in thumbnail form, and she could kind of give me some advice on where I could spread things out a little bit, because I was really hesitant on like not trying to make it go on forever. And she was like almost giving me permission, like you can add an extra couple of pages there. and
take away pages from other parts.
Exactly. And that was great, because I think it was good to have a collaborative effort on that for somebody else to be like, yeah, you don't need it. Unless you're going to expand on that some other way, then like you just don't need it. So that's great. And after thumbnailing and feedback, if there was anything that she wanted to see a revise of, I sent that to her, and then from there she's like, here are some other notes, but just go ahead and do it now. You don't have to show me again until it's done.
And so at that point, you go into production mode, do you?
By Miko.
By Miko. Production mode then?
Yes, production mode. definitely involved figuring out what the look of the book was going to be, so that I knew what I had to break down from there.
Right.
So I did some samples of what I wanted it to look like, and it's going to be printed in 2 colors. So figuring out how I was going to, I needed to figure out how printing worked as well, so that I knew what like my setup needed to be, so that I didn't render 300 pages and then they'd be like, actually, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I would just curl up in a ball and die.
Yeah.
We don't want that.
You want to so you have to understand how the printing process works before you even start making the art. Really important.
You can tell it's a windy night because that's, I think, why she's doing this.
Is she in here because she's scared?
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, you need pets around so that you can survive making a comic.
That's
of course.
right. That's so right.
Yeah.
And they're very supportive of my process.
Yeah. So production mode for 300 pages is tough going, right?
It's definitely been tougher than I expected.
Yeah.
I thought that once I thumbnailed, which was the hardest part for me, that everything else would come a lot easier from there.
Because you'd made books before,
and
kids' books before.
Yeah, I guess because I made kids' books before, and that I knew that I wasn't using like full rendering and color and everything. Like it was going to be flat and it was going to be simple in style, but the simple in style doesn't actually mean less time.
Why is that? Why is that? What?
I guess like if you just have one line describing something, it has to be the perfect line.
Yeah.
And that's part of it.
Yeah.
And adding a lot of characters multiple times and referencing all of their outfits, making sure everything's the same.
Yeah.
All the kids have a different backpack, and like all those things have just been like, oh, this will take longer than I expected.
Is there something about the process that you've enjoyed, or you haven't had time to enjoy it because you've just been doing it so much?
I really enjoy the coloring process because the line work is already done, and that's, I think, maybe the most difficult to just get set in stone and have it be enough where I like it enough, but also move on at the right time too. Because I could like keep going forever and add extra detail, but I don't have time. So once that decision has been made, I just have fun like coloring in the blue to go with the black. So it's going to be a blue and black.
Blue and black. So what you're saying is that the bit with lots of decisions is quite tough going, but then once you've made those decisions, you can just enjoy art making.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so right now, I mean, you're a month or two off finishing your first book.
Yeah.
Have you left behind all the bits where you're making decisions, or are you?
I have pretty much.
Yeah.
There's no more decisions, and with the thumbnailing and sketch process, I've already kind of gathered all the reference images that I needed, and like all of those things are already collected, and I just need to make sure I use them where I remembered, where I planned on using them, and there aren't many decisions left. Just like a few notes in revision that they wanted to see different, just for clarity.
So you're going to finish that in the next couple of months, and you send it off, and then next year someone's produced a book. But you've already, in the background, started on book 2. Is that right?
I will be starting straight away into book 2.
Wow.
As soon as I send this off, I'm going to go into writing mode again.
The toughest mode?
It's definitely a tough mode, but I'll at least be able to read other books during that time too. Yeah. Which will feed into my brain.
Yeah. Maybe as a separate question, which doesn't have to be in the short video, but could be in a longer video if there ever is one. I'd like to hear you talk about brain space.
Yes.
And how much brain space you have when you're making a comic.
It's very limited.
Very limited.
Yes.
So can you do passive kind of things like watching TV or movies?
Never.
Not even that?
No.
No. Have you read anything in the last few months?
No.
Have you?
Okay, I have been reading, but nothing to do with children. Nothing children's book related, nothing middle grade related.
Right.
Just like either nonfiction biographies
Yeah.
or things that aren't going to inspire my own work, that are, it's just fulfilling as a reader, and not anything that I can think about at night being something to do with my work too.
Is that because, I'm just thinking here, like, is there a fear that if it influences what you're doing, that you have to make a whole bunch of other decisions? Like, you're trying to avoid decision making? Is that part of it, do you think?
I don't know. I think like the fear of all this other amazing stuff out there will also get to me, and I need to just be in this confident mode of like, my idea is good enough, and I'm gonna keep doing it, and I don't want to see other people's great ideas right now.
Because it derails you a little bit,
It
and
does.
you need to keep going.
Yeah, I'll look and be like, oh, they have so much detail.
Yeah.
Maybe they spent 2 years on the book. Maybe they've spent 10 years.
Maybe.
I don't know, but I have to just leave all of that aside.
How is it different to making a kid's book? Is it just size?
The size, and well, I haven't written a children's book yet,
Sure.
so the writing, the storytelling is coming entirely from me, so there's a bit more ownership in that.
Yeah.
And it's also a memoir about my life. There's ownership in that too, so it's an interesting, different world to be in.
Yeah.
Also with children's books, I'm not really going on a deeper level like that you can with middle grade, and like the emotional journey of a preteen kind of person. So it's slightly more in depth than a children's book.
Yeah.
A
And
picture book.
yeah.
It's still for children.
Can I ask also, maybe being a memoir, and I know that your father is in this.
Yes.
Yeah. How, if you don't mind me asking, how is it drawing your father, for example?
It's definitely something I did not see coming.
Yeah. So he passed away when you were
When I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And like I knew that he would be a main character in this story, but I did not consider what it was going to be like to draw him over and over again. So that's definitely been an interesting experience, and it's been fun as well, like the imagining his facial expressions again, and like that's kind of a beautiful part of doing it, which is good, but it's definitely an emotional thing that I didn't think of in the beginning.
No.
Which is interesting.
Well, why would you? Yeah, I mean that's
Like once I like finally was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's happening.
So that would be, and when you're drawing this thing, you're by yourself a lot, I imagine, as well. So this is a very private kind of thing, which happens to comic artists,
Definitely.
probably, who are doing particularly memoir.
Spiraling.
Yeah, by themselves. and I don't know if other people would ever get that experience. Drawing someone who, meant something to you, or perhaps you might be drawing someone who's alive who you haven't seen, or I don't know. I mean, you're obviously drawing your mother who is still alive. And has that been an interesting experience as well?
It has been very interesting drawing my mom. She is still alive, and we're obviously able to talk about that time.
Yeah.
But the process of drawing her is that I'm trying to understand who she was at that time.
Yeah.
And like when I was 12, she did not exist as a human other than being my mom.
Wow. Yeah.
So like
interesting.
Trying to capture like her stress and being overwhelmed, like that was part of like my childhood, her story, and like something that I didn't understand until now.
So
which is interesting.
I mean, you would have experienced this probably many times. The when you're drawing the facial expressions of another human, you kind of put yourself in their shoes a bit.
Oh yeah.
So you become your own mother in some ways.
Definitely. I'm like when I'm drawing everyone's faces, I'm doing that face like to get it as well. So
you are acting
if
all
anyone
of the characters.
witnesses me drawing this, it's definitely weird. Put my hands in lots of positions. I like only have my hands as a reference for hands, and Yeah, it gets weird.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you. It's totally weird, but like it's kind of enriching. Though. Would you find? Would you say that? Or
Definitely, I
Yeah.
love it. It's definitely a world for me that's even more, I guess, enriching than children's books because
Yeah.
there's more depth to it, more fulfilling as an artist, I think.
Well, I can't wait to read it. I mean, I will be patient though. And then
This
once
time
I've,
next year.
this time next year, but then once I've read that, I will have to patiently wait for the next installment.
Yeah,
which
this
will
time
be
next year I should be finishing that second book, which I haven't written yet.
Yeah, right. Well, good luck with that.
Yeah. This is why I can't read anything or do anything else because I have to just let the ideas manifest.
If now that you've finished or you're close to finishing the first book, what would you do differently for your second book?
I think now that I know what to expect in the pacing of things, in storytelling, I think the thumbnail process won't be as overwhelming to me.
Right.
Now I feel a bit more confident making panels too, because initially I wasn't putting a lot of panels in, because I was like, I'm not a comic artist, and like,
Interesting.
I'm a fraud, like, who am I to be using panels in a wrong way?
There is no wrong way.
And so, yeah, then seeing it actually, it's working, it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, and
Yeah.
I think the next one it would be like, just go for it.
So mostly confidence is
Yeah.
what you think you'll change. Will anything from your actual process change?
Maybe I do like to do everything in phases, so I think seeing the phases work towards the end of this current book and figuring it all out, it will go into more short spurts of phases. Like sometimes currently I'll spend a whole day just like setting up all the files that I'm gonna work on for the next day. Like, so that way I just open them, it just all flows, and the momentum isn't broken by like having to set up the file again and all of that.
So your systems will be tweaked so that you can
Yes.
be more efficient is the main change. All right.
Yeah.
Wow. I like hearing about how other people do things. Or what they learn, especially,
Oh, it's definitely a learning process, that's for sure.
Yeah. My difficulty is every single thing I do is completely different. You've got this benefit of at least having, being able to learn from the first time, because the second one and the third one presumably will have a similar form,
I think so, yeah.
which I think will make you much more efficient.
Don't know if they'll all be memoir, but
You got me even more intrigued.
the second one probably will be, but I don't know.
Okay.
It's all just gonna happen. We'll see. It's been
A bit of fiction thrown in with memoir?
maybe.
Maybe just completely fiction.
Don't know. I've been loving maybe not with this set of 3 books, but in my future somewhere,
Right.
I'd love to do a historical fiction. So I'm just gonna manifest that now, so
Okay.
that in 10 years or something, it's just gonna happen.
Excellent. Is there any particular era that we should be manifesting from this early stage?
No.
America?
Not
English?
necessarily. I
China?
don't know.
Japan?
I don't know.
Because you're not consuming any media right now, you probably haven't, you just left it open.
Yeah, it's just open to whatever sparks up. Ooh, maybe that.
Can this one be dressed up in some type of historical garb?
Definitely, she could.
Excellent.
She's wearing a lot of sweaters at the moment because she got a haircut, but it's cold.
Well, I should better leave you to getting back to your art. So, but thank you for talking to me, and
Thanks, it's been fun.
looking forward to your book.
Thank you.
See you, Miko.
Bye, Nico. You're leaving too.